Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time around we had The Power of Kroll. What happened on that one?
I have totally forgotten, as I have been doing a lot lately. But
Yeah.
my show is now open, so I should be getting better.
Yeah. So, the Doctor and Romana land on this very wet planet where there are these... there's the guys at the refineries, and then there's the natives of the planet, and there's this whole thing about colonization and also giant enemy squids, and it is sort of a whole thing of like a commentary on colonizing and everything, but then the leader of the colonizers and the leader of the natives, they both kind of go crazy anyway, so I don't know. But anyway, and yeah, eventually the Doctor figures out that the giant squid, Kroll, swallowed the key to the piece of time. No, the piece to the key of time. That's it.
That's it, though.
And yeah, he got rid of the squid entirely, and it all formed back into the fifth segment of the key. That was it.
All right. And we were talking about, I think this is really one of the first times where they went in depth, where one of the miners actually said, perhaps we shouldn't be doing this, and literally tried to stop the ultimate plan there, but the leader ended up shooting him, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, so it was interesting stuff. And today we are starting off the final story of this season, the Armageddon Factor, which this will be 6 episodes, so we'll be doing it 3 today, 3 next week. And yeah, so things we have not resolved from this season. The Black Guardian. It's kind of just it. It's like they've teased this Black Guardian the whole time. And I know someone said, like, what was it? The Stones of Blood, the one druid goddess who got put on trial. Someone speculated that she might be an agent of the Black Guardian because she knew how to use the key of time in order to change her appearance and everything. But that's not stated. So... And I know that there are some things that are, it's, show, don't tell, and so it's very implied. I get all of that, garbage and everything, but sometimes if there is just no explicit, just nothing saying that, then I don't know. And that's not against whoever made that comment. That's just a thing in general that I have to deal with in nonsense. But anyway, but yeah, so... I don't know. It could possibly be that's a good headcanon for that one druid goddess who got put on trial in hyperspace, but I don't know. I don't know about it. So yeah, we have to figure out what's going on with the Black Guardian. We don't even know who the White Guardian is, really.
No, really.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna get that in this one or if we're gonna get that next week. So we will have to see.
And we, like the last 2 serials, we haven't seen them actually put the pieces to the Key of Time together, like they did the first and second episodes.
Yeah, so it has been a little while, so I assume it should look nearly complete. It's like in Yu-Gi-Oh! When he gets almost all the Millennium Puzzle together, he's just missing the one piece because the school bully threw it into the sewers. So
Yu-Gi-Oh!
It's interesting. Well, that's especially because that's early Yu-Gi-Oh! That's when there was less about the whole Egyptian mythologies and stuff. That was more of that was back when it was a horror manga featuring board games and stuff. So it was a very interesting work. So, but yeah. So, and also if you wanna see reviews of those specific early chapters of Yu-Gi-Oh! I do actually have those. I do have reviews of that on the channel, so you can go watch that. So,
how old were you when you did those?
Those were only in the last year or so.
Oh.
So those are pretty recent.
He's got stuff that literally goes back 10 years.
I do. Yeah, I've got some. I do have a couple old manga that I've had for a long time. So, but yeah, I've been watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Itself 20 years or so. It's been about, I think actually Yu-Gi-Oh! Itself is coming up on its 25th anniversary. So, anywho, that's not the point. The point is, Doctor Who, what are we doing today? Why don't we go ahead and find out? So let's just go ahead and jump right into the Armageddon Factor. Here we go.
Now, I'm sure you know this, but Armageddon is literally the final battle in the Bible. The armies of the East and West meet on the plain of Megiddo. No, it's the Valley of Megiddo, the plain of Jezreel. And they fight it out to the bitter end. Bob and Dave.
Darling.
Oh, my love.
Don't go.
I must.
But you'll be killed.
Perhaps.
I can't bear it.
Oh. Soap opera.
I was about to say, apparently I turned on Days of Our Lives in Space.
Men out until victory is won, evil vanquished, and peace restored. Then, and only then, my darling, can we love again. I must go. Kiss the children for me.
Oh, it's actually a soap opera on this planet? Ooh.
It's all right, it's all right.
Ah, yes, back when computers had tape reels.
People of Atrios, once more the hated forces of Zeus clamor at our gates. Once more, they shall not pass. Be brave, my
pass.
people. Be steadfast. Be strong.
There it is. Well, it's something anyway.
But it's millions of miles away.
Yes.
And where's Zeos? There's no sign of it.
Do you know what I think? I think something's gone wrong, something fairly serious.
The Black Guardian.
Well, it could be a coincidence.
I wouldn't like to bet on it.
Oh, nor would I. There's only one thing to do.
Listen, why don't you take us in on manual?
I think I'll take us in on manual with circumspection.
Maybe there is no Zeos. Or maybe it's already been taken because it was a piece of the key.
Think, Pop, why do you always assume the worst?
Because it usually happens.
Empirical poppycock. Where's your joy in life? Where's your optimism?
It opted out.
Optimism, belief that everything will work out well, irrational, bordering on insane.
Oh, do shut up, Kena. Listen, Romana.
You must go in. Please, your hands.
You first.
I'm only obeying orders.
Yes, I understand.
No water or swamps. Quite safe.
What did he say?
Mwah.
After
High radiation zone?
family,
Any sentient life through there, K9?
regret lead shielding will prevent effective analysis.
Oh, it's just like Superman.
Perhaps the doors will be trapped.
Doctor. Remember
X-rays
what we
also
were
won't go
saying
through
about the
lead.
Black Guardian?
Could you make a hole for me in that door, K9? A little hole, K9. We don't know what's beyond there, do we?
Is the princess the segment of the key? Or is she just wearing it?
That's her radiation dosimeter or whatever it's called.
That's enough, K9. That's enough. Back up.
You wouldn't touch that.
Mwah.
Help me, whoever you are.
Romana, there's a...
Help me, Obi-Wan Doctor. You're my only hope.
You'll be shot for this.
It wasn't us. He was like that when we found him.
You expect me to believe that?
Yes.
No. Yes.
No.
Canine?
Hiding in the broom closet.
Alright. Nope.
You know these people.
No, should I?
I think you do. I think they are your accomplices. What? Zeon spies and saboteurs.
What's that got to do with me?
Princess Astra is missing. She was last seen with you. Since then, her escort has been found dead.
We must find her. Are you searching for her?
Everything possible is being done. Now, Mira,
I know you don't.
You think we should start a Doctor Who drinking
I don't
game?
agree with war, nor does Astra. I think it's possible that
Just on the fact that they think they're spies and stuff like that.
Motive to...
Doctor! The TARDIS! It's gone!
How did that happen? It's not often that somebody takes the TARDIS. Alright.
Now, I have to say, the costumes are fascinating because they're very much a mix of, military of modern times and military of old. And I like the fact that the Marshal is not overplaying it like we usually see in these sorts of things. Again, you got Princess Astra, which is, very Flash Gordon, Star Wars sort of thing going on there. But it's still an interesting story.
Yeah, it honestly feels like they kind of reuse some of the costumes and sets from the Pirate Planet. They are very similar, I think. Just the location, his sort of red vest and everything. So,
now, this also, I was thinking, this does remind me of a Star Trek Original Series episode where two planets had been at war for like 500 years. But rather than bombing each other with actual weapons, they would plot it out on a computer. And it would say, District 5 has been hit. And then all the people of District 5 would be given a warning that they had to go to the disintegration chambers. And that way the populations would be kept in check in both of the planets. And of course, Kirk comes in and destroys the disintegration chambers and basically tells them, hey, you're now going to have to actually fight a real war. People are going to die everywhere, including, the elite here. And they finally realize that the war is not worth it. So it's got that kind of a vibe going on. But again, this is a good 10 years later.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's the idea of this incredibly long war between two opposing sides. I mean, we could call this East versus West, or even the United States versus Russia, or whatever you want to call it. But again, it's got that tension of we see only one side of this equation, and we don't know who the other guys are, who the Zeons are.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. It's that I'm almost convinced there is no Zeon. Or Zeos or whatever it was called.
No.
Because they said something. There was something like that when they arrived in the TARDIS in orbit. Is that they looked around and they couldn't find anything, and eventually they found Atrios. So I'm wondering if there just isn't a twin planet. So either maybe it could be that if it was the last segment of the Key of Time, perhaps the Black Guardian, whoever he is, actually went and got it first before the Doctor and Romana could. So, but if that's the case, then wouldn't Atrios have noticed that their enemy is gone? So,
unless the Marshal is again deliberately hiding that fact so that he can retain power over the princess.
Yeah, it could be something like that. And he's got some whole thing going with the mirror too. So you must be communicating to a higher power, something like that. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of mystery, and there's also, who was that guy that took the princess at the end? So we don't know.
Wonder if he's the Black Guardian.
I guess that is possible. It would make sense of someone who would be able to steal the TARDIS.
The TARDIS! It's gone!
Yes. Buried under that rubble.
Oh, it's just there.
That machine of theirs, metal, would you say?
Partly, yes, sir.
Recycle it, chap. Locate it and turn it into scrap. Understood?
Sir?
And now we're gonna have to get K9 Mark III. It is the end of the season anyway.
Blaster, inoperative, all other circuits undamaged. Temperature increasing.
Man, it's like the end of Toy Story 3.
Now that you are here, you are the one.
I am. Am I?
The one who will lead us to victory.
Oh, good-o. As long as there's no personal risk involved, of course.
To halt the hated Zeons in their tracks. Wipe their presence from our skies, and free this land, this world, this Atrios.
This blessed plot.
Good, this blessed
earth,
plot
this
of
realm,
the terrors of
this
war
England.
and the evils of pestilence.
Yes!
Temperature unacceptable. Request further instructions. Master. Master.
Now, Doctor,
This is what happens when you remake Old Yeller in space.
weapons that are of
Peace.
very funny. How can we have peace until we have the ultimate deterrent that will ensure a lasting peace?
Tell me, Marshal, if you had this ultimate deterrent, what would you do?
Use it, of course. Make sure it works.
Yes. Well, you have the true military mind, Marshal.
Thank you.
I tell you what,
That was not a compliment, I
you
think.
help me find a secret.
I bet he misses the Brigadier.
Closing down.
Gee, he's just gonna run in there?
That can't be good.
Okay, K9, are you all right?
Affirmative, mistress.
Warm for the time of the year. It's a little trick I picked up from the firewalkers in Bali. They do it all the time. Come on, old boy.
Good job.
If we're going to set up a one-way force field, one that keeps the Zeons up and allows you to pass through it to attack them, we're going to have to get to know our enemy, so to speak.
What do you mean?
I was thinking in terms of a psychological barrier. It's cheap, efficient, and energy-saving. And it would stop the Zeons wanting to come here, introduce an element of atrophobia.
Oh, what a brilliant idea.
In order to do that, I'd have to meet one, you see, get to know it, brain patterns, that sort of thing. Is that right, Amanda?
Oh, absolutely. There's no other way.
Marshal, can you arrange that?
No, Doctor.
Look, it doesn't have to be anything particularly intelligent. Any prisoner would do.
There are no prisoners. This is war to the death. Like us, the Zeon warriors are sworn to destroy themselves. Death before dishonor.
Pick up a Zeon and bring the Princess Astra back if she's there.
People of Atrios, lay down your arms. Surrender. Resistance is useless. The Zeons can never be defeated.
I was gonna say, this is very Borg.
It's the Marshal.
It's a two-way mirror.
What's that?
Shh. It's done. The Time Lord suspects nothing. I've directed him to the transmat point in K-Block.
Doctor! Doctor, wait! Oh, no! K9, it was a trap! Doctor! Doctor!
All right. Now, is the Crystal Skull the Black Guardian? Or is it just a Crystal Skull? Either way, this is still better than Crystal Skull, the Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
So,
And how did it not know that Romana and Merrick were there? If it has telepathic powers.
yeah. Or is he actually talking to the skull, or is it literally just there and he thinks he's talking to something? I don't know. If it's a two-way mirror, which a two-way mirror is just a window, but if it's a two-way mirror, then couldn't they have seen into that? Did they mean a one-way mirror? Or a one-way window, I think.
No, it's two-way. You've probably forgotten, but there used to be a restaurant that we would go to that had a two-way mirror in their bathroom, so that people on the outside in the restaurant could go and look, and it was just a mirror. But once you went inside, you could see through the mirror and see all the people out there, and it was very difficult to, shall we say, do your business because you thought people could look in and see you.
Well, I know there was there's some, I don't know if it's still around, but there is something like that at a restaurant in Florida where it's just like there's just a giant window, and if you go in and you lock the door, then it clouds up. But if you forget about that, then everyone can just see in and see you doing your business. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, is the skull actually alive? Is it not? If it is alive, shouldn't it know, that Romana and Merak were in there? So, I don't know. And again, so now we have the whole thing of something was covering up Zeos specifically, which is why they couldn't find it. So there is a planet, I guess. And why is the Marshal the only one who knows about the link, the transmat link to there? And I mean, I don't know, is he some sort of turncoat maybe or something? Because I don't know.
Because he's trying to destroy the people of Zeos.
Yeah, but is that like... But maybe that could be some sort of a cover, because he also killed the princess's guard, most likely knowing that she would be taken there. So, I don't know. I've got many questions about that. So,
But you promised. You promised me victory.
The war has served its purpose.
That answers that question.
You have served yours.
What's the matter, Canine? Hurry.
Haste unnecessary, mistress. Sensors indicate the TARDIS to be missing.
Missing?
Oh, they took it anyway.
Ready, mistress?
Well done, Canine.
I'm sorry, Romana.
Look, I'd really like to help you, but I've got a problem. You see, the thing is that the segments are in there, and of course I can go in there, but I can't bring them out here.
Why not?
Well, you see, I built a failsafe. The segments are in a sort of limbo closet in limbo. And the only way to get at them, you see, is with the next piece. So if you just let me have it, I'll pop in there and fetch them for you.
You think I would trust you?
No.
I have watched you and your jackdaw meanderings. I know you, and I know there is a want of patience in your nature.
That's right. Fools rush in.
Exactly. Leave him. He will make his own mistake. Then, Doctor, I shall be waiting.
Okay.
A rather neat trick.
So they're just going to wait him out until he gets bored. There was no reason you couldn't bring Romana.
Give it to me. I must find Astra.
Listen, Merak, we all want to find her. Now look, if I let you go, do you promise not to interfere?
Yes.
Good job,
I
Romana.
know she's here.
It is stimulating to communicate for once with something other than a limited and unpredictable organic intelligence.
What did you just say? With something other?
Affirmative. I have been communicating with my own kind.
The day of retribution is at hand. I shall myself.
Star Wars has come out now. Sounds like a terrible NES game.
Wait here, please.
Please tell me they're all K9s.
The Commandant will see you now.
Come on, Romana. You two stay there.
It's a great intelligence.
There's your enemy, chap. Runs everything. Attack, defense, surveillance, production, everything. The ideal war general. No glory, no speeches, no medals, and no blood.
What do you mean?
It's fully automated. There are no Zeons on Zeos.
No Zeons on Zeos.
No. Just this passionless lump of minerals and circuitry. Highly efficient, doing very well.
So,
Give an Atreus a battery,
where'd
kill
they go?
millions without a flicker.
The bombardment is over. The next step is obliteration.
For who?
Everything.
Alright, so the next question is, where's the TARDIS?
Well, it must be on the Zeon planet somewhere.
Well, yeah.
Unless they've got it in the place where the masked people are.
Well, yeah.
Excellent. Prepare to attack.
That's the first 3 parts.
Now, there was a good 5 minutes worth of padding in that last episode.
Yeah.
Having K9 go in and talk to the machine, and the machine talking back. And, there's no dialogue anywhere in there.
Yeah. All right. So the Zeons did exist at one point.
And may still, we just don't know. Even though Shap said they looked like the people of Atrios, and the doctor says, well, the ones I've seen don't look like that at all. So they may still exist, they may not, we don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But it leans towards that they do not.
Yeah. I guess it could have been that if they created this perfect machine in order to send out all the fleets and stuff, it could be that they just left the planet of Zeos and it's like, well, when the war is over, we'll come back, And Atrios has made no headway at all, which is why their planet is still completely habitable, just very, very dusty. So just a bit of spring cleaning and everything will be back in order. The other thing I was thinking about too was back when it was, when I had the theory of there is no Zeos at all, I was thinking, what if it's just that the Zeons are on Atrios? They just don't realize that they're on the same planet. Yeah. But that doesn't make sense. And it's obviously not what they're going for, but yeah. But why? Where are the Zeons specifically? Because okay, at the very least, so we have Atrios, we have Zeos. They said there was something obscuring Zeos, specifically from the TARDIS and from Atrios. And at the very least, we also have like some sort of satellite or space station where the Shadow appears to be.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The Shadow does.
Yeah. Now, it's possible that that space station and the thing obscuring Zeos are the same thing. Until that's fully said, I'll keep them at 2 things because I'm trying to figure out this little puzzle they've given me, and I hate puzzles. Yeah. So
now, also, if Zeos is hidden, how did the Marshal and the pilot find it in the shuttle, in the command module?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. When they said, "There's our target," I looked and it's like, I don't see anything. So I don't know. I don't know what they're looking at. So maybe, yeah. So at the very least, because that's the other thing is that none of them know what the transmat is on Atrios, with the exception of the Marshal, who seems to work for the Shadow at least. So, which the Shadow, I mean, I'm almost convinced that Shadow just is the Black Guardian, but unless it's a servant of the Black Guardian, I guess they leave it a bit open. But I mean, he knows who the Doctor is. He knows the segments of the Key of Time. He knows how to get in. So I'm pretty sure it's just the Black Guardian. They just haven't outright said it yet. But either way, until it's 100% confirmed, we'll just keep saying the Shadow. So yeah. So only the Marshal knows of the transmat link, but they do have space capabilities. Because the other thing I thought was, well, you're sending out these things, your ships into space to fight, but we don't really see this fight going on. So maybe it's a trick or something, but they seem to actually be doing that. So we're just trying to figure out all the pieces.
Yes, we're in the middle of a puzzle and we can't see the rest of the pieces yet.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing. It works out probably a little bit better that this is 6 episodes to split it into 2 videos, because that way we can sit here and we can speculate on all these different things and then come back next week and we'll get all the answers, hopefully get all the answers to it. So yeah. And we also had the princess thinking she was captured by the Zeons. Obviously she wouldn't be any the wiser about who the Zeons really are. So she thinks that the Shadow is the Zeons, and then she has that whole thing of, we must just surrender now, give up the Marshal, and that'll be that. See, that's kind of weird too, because if the Marshal is in on it too.
Yeah.
But I guess the next question is, does he realize he's talking to, or does he think he's talking to the leader of the Zeons, or just some vague thing called the Shadow. So, and we don't know, because there's also the question is, the machine, whatever K9 called it, does the machine know of what the Shadow is doing?
And again, remember, we're watching all 3 episodes right together. This would have been 3 weeks apart.
Yeah.
I think the average person would have not remembered what they saw the last week.
Yeah, I don't know how many... I mean, if there's anyone who... It's a motorcycle, I think. I don't know if... Yeah, I don't know if that caught on the microphone or not, but anyway. I don't know, like, how many people watching these reactions watched this in 1970, whatever this was.
78, I think.
79. Oh. Top of 79. So, I don't know. If you did, let us know, were you taking notes the whole time? Because on some of these stories, you know, it's nice that I do take notes for these reactions, you know? So yeah. Because I'm also thinking, like, okay, so there's this back and forth with this war, and it's left Atrios just completely horrible, and, you know, different places have terrible radiation and everything. It's a nuclear war, but none of that has apparently hit Zeos. But they also don't know, because the Doctor and Romana figure out that something is obscuring Zeos, but they don't seem to know that. So unless see, this is where, like, I'm going back to, like, everything I've ever watched in my life, and I'm thinking, it sprang to mind. There was an episode of Dragon Ball when they were going. No, hear me out. This is just for a moment. There was an episode of Dragon Ball where they were on their way to this planet called Namek, but they ran into a planet that they thought was Namek, and it just is the fake Namek, basically. And it's widely considered by Dragon Ball fans as one of the worst things in Dragon Ball. But it just, like, sprang to my mind. It's like, wait a minute, maybe the Zeos they went to is the real Zeos, and what they think they're attacking is a fake Zeos that's hitting, you know, taking all that nuclear radiation. And maybe that fake, or just maybe it's just a wall. There's literally, they put up a wall in space.
They did mention that Atrios had a twin planet, but I didn't think that was Zeos.
I think that's what it's supposed to be, is that they are in such close proximity, and they've been fighting each other this whole time. Okay. But I don't know. But clearly, Atrios has not realized that there's something obscuring Zeos.
Yeah. So
I don't know. And it could be... See, this is where we're going to get a comment that we're, like, focusing way too hard on, like, details that aren't actually that important. But I don't know. Because I feel like this is what... You know, this is what is presented to us, is this strange sort of mystery of what's going on with Zeos. There doesn't seem to be any Zeons there. So, I'm not really sure. Other stuff this episode, we did have the whole thing of the Doctor coming up with a psychic barrier to try to keep the Zeons away, but yeah, you'd have to get a Zeon specifically to study its brain and everything, and then obviously there are no Zeons on Zeos, so yeah, it just brings the question of where are the Zeons and where have they been all this time, you know? If this is going to... If they've had such an incredible war, it would be like... Because it kind of reminds me of the Daleks and the Thals with their radiation and everything leading to the creation of the Daleks, except it would be like that if, like, the Daleks and the Khalids weren't real. And it's like, oh, they've been gone this whole time. It's like, well, what have we been fighting then? What's been the purpose of all of this? So... And there's a skull with a two-way mirror, and that's weird, and I'm not quite sure, like... Well, I mean, like, I get the purpose of that is it's something that the Marshal communicates to the Shadow with, and he's specifically being controlled with that thing on his neck, so I guess if you just pop it off at some point, who knows what the Marshal will do after that, you know? But yeah, I'm not sure. And then this is all for the Shadow to get the last segment to the Key of Time. and presuming the Shadow is the Black Guardian, and he knows, because he knows the Doctor, he knows he's a Time Lord, he knows that within the TARDIS is the remaining pieces of the key.
Now, the one thing I thought odd about that is he didn't mention Romana.
Yeah.
And it would stand to reason that if he knew the Doctor was a Time Lord, he would know that Romana was a Time Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, if we went off of the theory that the White Guardian is actually the Black Guardian, then he would obviously know about Romana because he sent Romana with the Doctor. But otherwise, yeah, if he knew that the White Guardian sent the Doctor to get the pieces of the Key of Time, why wouldn't he know that he's also traveling with Romana? Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. So, but yeah, and then we have the princess, who either she's wearing the Key of Time or she is the Key of Time.
It strikes me she is the Key of Time.
Yeah. So, which I mean, I guess it's entirely possible because, last episode was all about this, enormous 3-mile squid that that was morphed down into one key. So I guess it's entirely possible for her to just be the last segment. I did like the whole thing of the Doctor putting in a failsafe that the only way he can now access the first 5 pieces is by having the last piece already. But I also like the Shadow figuring out, like, well, I've waited for this. I can wait a bit longer. Presuming, this guy, I mean, we don't know what the Black Guardian and the White Guardian are. So presuming they can live probably even longer than Time Lords, it's like, well, I know you, Doctor, you're going to get bored. And so eventually you will lead me to those last pieces just out of sheer boredom. And I just have to wait, 1,000 years for that. So, so that's an interesting thing. But also, I mean, it's also a strange thing of, I guess it's that the Doctor could have just left, but at some point, I guess it's his curiosity would eventually lead him to the princess and getting the final piece. Yeah. So, at which point, I guess he could threaten Romana or Merak or Shap or someone and then get all 6 pieces. So, but yeah. But at the same time, the princess is not on Zeos. She's in some sort of space station or something, potentially the thing that's obscuring Zeos from Atrios. But yeah, the next question is, how do we get to her specifically? So, because the tracer is like vaguely picking her up, but it's also picking up everything she drops. So, I don't know. And where are the Zeons? That's honestly, like, more than the Shadow or the Black Guardian or the Princess or anything. My biggest question now is, what happened to the Zeons? So, which is probably not the biggest question we should be having going into the last part of, the last thing in this whole grand story arc that they've given us this season. But yeah. So,
I had one last little thing about Baker and Martin, the 2 writers. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you caught this, and I only really was just thinking about it a few minutes ago. If you want 2 groups of people, 2 planets, to be as far apart as they can, it makes sense to name them Planet A and Planet Z. We have Atrios and Zeos.
Yeah, that's true.
Although in Great Britain, that would be Z.
Yeah. So, yeah, that does make sense. And their names are honestly kind of similar anyway. Yeah. So, with Atrios and Zeos. So, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting. It's a head scratcher, this one. So it's just looked up and read the title again in my head, and it's like, oh, the Armageddon factor, and it's like, oh yeah, that's a thing. And it's like, I mean, I guess there's the obvious. It's like, well, it's the Armageddon factor if he gets all 6 pieces of the Key of Time and something. But it's like, with a name like that, and I know here goes Alex, making fun of the names again, but it almost like that name. It's a good name, but it sounds like it should be something in the episode.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the Armageddon factor or something, and it's like, so I mean, either way, it's a good enough title. You understand it and everything, and.
Now, again, if I recall, it's biblically the last battle, the final battle between good and evil.
Yeah, and so that makes sense for the last the see what happens is they've met the Black Guardian for the first time for the last time specifically, so. So yeah, and what you said, it sort of was the battles between the East and the West, wasn't it? Yeah. That would also sort of work of just the two planets. So, but again, wherever the Zeons are, that's I don't know. That's the one that's like sticking in my head the most. But I feel like it's almost the least plot relevant because it's like, well, yes, there's this whole war and everything, but there's also the Shadow, the Black Guardian, the princess, and trying to find the key of time. I don't know how much of that factors into where the Zeons go, but I mean, I'm sure they'll give us an answer in the next 3. So yeah. Anything else?
I got nothing.
Then yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll be back next week to finish off the season with the last 3 parts of the Armageddon factor. So, with all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist for all of our Doctor Who classic reactions, as well as another playlist for all of my modern Doctor Who reactions if you want to go check those out. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.